Recently, I got this comment to make a list of all the problems I've solved to reach candidate master. And I thought, wow, that would be one worthless problem sheet. But since I had nothing better to do this weekend, I went ahead and did it anyways. So I wrote a script that generates this README file which has every problem I've solved until becoming candidate master and in chronological order. Now, in my opinion, this is pretty worthless, but I've seen quite a few people ask for things like this. So here it is, maybe it can be useful for you. What do I know? Now let me go ahead and explain how I made it and how you can use my script to generate your own list, maybe to flex or something like that. So to get this list, I first had to get all the problems I've solved on Codeforces, AtCoder and CodeChef, since these are the only websites I practice on. And then I had to sort all the submissions together based on their time and append them to this README file with whatever formatting it required. So how do you think I got that list of submissions? Well, the answer is the public APIs these websites provide. Most websites use APIs for data transfer to and from their database, now with an intermediate server, and they sometimes expose their APIs as well so that developers can use it or make separate APIs for developers. You can think of these APIs as public functions available to you, but for that you don't have to hash include something. Like if you want to use vector, you have to do hash include vector, but here you don't have to do that. You just have to make an HTTP request to their server and they will return you the data. Now let's get into a little bit more detail of these APIs that I used. So if you Google Codeforces API, you will land on this introduction page, which basically tells us that this is what the base URL looks like. It either returns a status of OK or failed, and everything is in JSON, and there's some language stuff. Now these are the methods, the public methods that we can use. So if you go to user.status, you can see it returns us the submissions of a specified user, which is exactly what I want. And we just have to tell it starting from what and how many do we want. And what it returns is a submission object, which is like this: an ID of integer, its contest ID, its creation time, problem, author, language, verdict, and everything else we need. And as you can see, verdict can be either failed, okay, partial, etc. Now, so where is it? Yeah, so this is the API request I'm making. As you can see, codeforces.com API user.status, the method, and my handle is codemastercpp. I want from 1 up to 10,000. Now the limit is, I don't think they have a limit, but it is at least more than 10,000. So I got all my submissions in one API call, and now I just have to parse this. So I make the API call in code here. So I use Axios library for that. It is very widely used. So I make that API call here, and then so response.data, this is this entire thing. So this entire JSON that starts from here up to the end is this response.data. So I do dot result to get this array which has all the submissions, and then I filter out all the submissions that have anything except okay. So I have now only the accepted solutions because I don't want to show the problems that I did not solve. And then what I do is I go through every submission and create my own submission schema because I wanted to create this readme file, and for this I figured I needed problem name, its URL, its submission URL, the platform it is in, Codeforces, CodeChef or AtCoder, and the timestamp. So I get the problem name, I generate the URL using using contest ID and problem index, and submission URL using submission ID and the contest ID, and timestamp just creation time seconds. So timestamp is Unix timestamp in seconds. Now, so using this, I can get all the Codeforces submissions. Now let's have a look at the AtCoder API. Unfortunately, we don't have an AtCoder API, but fortunately, Kenku has their own API for AtCoder things that they process and store in their own database. So as you can see, the Skenku websites mentions all the problems and like this, and if you mention your username, you can get all your submissions as well. So if you Google Kenku AtCoder GitHub, you will land on this page, and here you can see they have their own API defined. So if you click on that, you will reach their documentation, and in this documentation we have the required API right here. So to get all the submissions, we have to call this method, this HTTP method, and we have to mention our user ID and the timestamp. So if we enter 0 here, the Unix timestamp, we will get all the submissions from the start of the time. And then since it has a limit, so if I make this API call here, I will not get all the submissions. I will have to pick up this last epoch second, that is the last place that I had, and use this. And as you can see, it comes again, so I actually have to use the next second and get all the next submissions. And after this, so I only had 2 pages, I think. Yes, so I have only 2 pages of submissions. So as you can see, I needed some pagination here. And also, when I was making HTTP call, I was getting forbidden error. So I went to their repositories issues and I searched. So here I searched forbidden, and this is what resolved it for me. Here, as you can see, they mention that you have to have this header. So I have this header here, except encoding gzip. So what gzip is, as far as I know, it kind of compresses, I think, the data before sending through HTTP. I'm not sure, don't quote me on this. Now I needed this API call here because what this API call was giving me was everything except the problem name. So I needed this so that I can get the problem title from the ID. So I make this call and make a map of ID to name. So problem ID name map. And then I do call to the actual API. And initially I start from 0. So that's the pagination thing. And if I do not receive any more submissions, I break out. Otherwise, I update the last second epoch to be the last epoch second sent to us in the submission list plus 1, like I showed you just now. And then again, I have to filter only the accepted solutions and then form the required object and append it into the final result and return this. So with this, I now had AtCoder submissions as well. Now let's see how the CodeChef API looks like. Now CodeChef has public API, but it is not accessible to everybody. They have restrictions placed, but I was given access during a hackathon for their internship hiring. So I still had the access, so I used that. So what you have to do if you have access, if you are like a campus chapter head, you probably have it. You have to create a new application. So what this create new application really means is giving credentials to some application. So in this case, my application is this, for which I am gonna get the credentials. Then after you've created a new app, there's really nothing about that. You can do it yourself. You open that, link to test app, link to your app, and then you go to the console. After you go to the console, you have to click on this client credentials and authorize. Once you do that, you will get a client credential. Okay, I don't know if it expires. I'm not gonna generate it. So you generate it and you get it. After that, you have to use this API. So this will give me the submissions. and we want only accepted submissions. We don't need to mention the year. We want Codemasters API, don't care about the language, and the limit we want 20, maximum is 20 as you can see. And in AtCoder we will give the timestamp and it will give us all the submissions after that timestamp. Here it is a little bit different. Here it returns the latest submissions first. So if I test this endpoint, as you can see, it returns me all the latest ones, and this is my client credentials. So this is what the curl looks like. I need an authorization header with my client credential that I've generated. I think this will expire, so I won't have to blur it out by the time the video comes out. We'll see. And so it returns us the array of submissions that we have made, and these are the latest ones. If we want further, what we have to do is take the last submissions ID and put it here in the after, and then it would give us the next slot of submissions. And another painful thing about their API is that there is rate limiting in place. So where is it? Okay, so there is rate limiting. I know for a fact. I've seen it. I cannot find the page right now, and I can only make 30 calls to this API in 5 minutes. So one call in 10 seconds. So I made every call with a gap of 15 seconds just to be on the safe side. So this is the function that I use. Now this last after here is just for some, so this is for what if my script crashes in between. I will have to rerun it again and wait all that again. So what I'm doing it is at every step I'm saving my progress, and so that if my application crashes, I can use the last after from that and put it here and then continue from where I was. So yeah, so if it was there, I will read it from whichever file I've saved it, and this is, I'm just printing out the initial length, then I'm making the API call, and as you can see, this is my header. Now after that, I am doing an API call there, and I'm extracting out the submissions. If I have no submissions, I break out, otherwise I update my after. And now what I have to do is I have to go through every submission and add it to my final result. But there is a catch. Some submission, so if you have even a partial score, it is counted as AC. So you can end up with duplicates. So to avoid duplicates, I'm storing them in a set, and every time I'm encountering something I've already encountered, I return null, and then I filter out null. And after every step, like I said, I was saving things in a JSON file so I can continue whenever my script crashes. Luckily, it never crashed until the last place where there was no object, there was no submissions. It crashed only there, so I didn't have to worry about anything. So I using this, I get all the CC submissions, and they were here. So in the last file, I copied it into cc.json here, and then I created a new function, and what this does is reads from that file, so don't have to make the API calls again, and does that same filtering again, because what if some partial submissions and the complete submissions are spread out across different pages. So for that edge case, I had to deal with this. And this is the controller which I use to get the Codeforces submission, AtCoder submissions, CodeChef submissions, and then I sorted them by their timestamp and put them into submissions.json. So this is here, and then I generated my readme file. So this is the timestamp in epoch seconds, after which I became candidate master. So I filter out everything which is greater than this timestamp, and then I generate the readme file. So to make a table, we have to do it like this, and for every row I add that row, and Done. I was done and I generated this readme file. If you look at its output, it is great. So now let's talk about what you have to do if you want your own submissions. Obviously, you have to replace your handle, my handle with your handle in here and here. So Codeforces and AtCoder will be very simple. For CodeChef, what you will have to do is obviously get a client credential, and whenever you call it, you will have to do it like this. So cc token, and will have to do it like this. Call the index file, and so what here you will have to not call this. First of all, you'll have to do something like this. Go on cc submissions, get cc submissions. You can start with nothing, and then once you have them in your file, you'll have to take the one with the lowest value, so this, and copy it into cc.json, and then run this, and once you run this, you will store everything in submissions.json. So to run this, obviously you just have to uncomment this, and after you've done that, you can just comment that out again and call generate readme, and it will generate it for you. And with that said, now let's talk about its use. I don't think it's any useful other than to store all your submissions in one place. However, some people like to see all the problems someone have solved to see if they can solve it. So if you want to try that, that's fine, do it. But do not try to use it as a problem list that you should solve. There are a lot of trashy problems in this and a lot of very good problems as well. So with that said, hope you learned something new. Hope you will find this useful. And if you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.